The house was always too quiet after her father died. Naomi was only 8 years old when death crept into her home like a thief in the night and stole the man who had been her anchor, her laughter, her shield. Her father had been her hero, strong, hard-working, and soft-spoken, the kind of man whose presence filled every corner of a room. But one evening, after a sudden illness, his voice went silent forever. Her mother, Ruth, tried to be strong. She wrapped her sorrow in silence and wore her grief like a headscarf, tying it tightly each morning before she went to the market to sell vegetables. The weight of life doubled on her shoulders, but she bore it for Naomi's sake. Yet the little girl could hear the muffled sobs at night, the ones her mother tried so hard to hide. It was during these dark days that Naomi first met David. David was a neighbor's son, a thin, wide-eyed boy who always wore faded shirts and patched trousers. His family had little, but he had a heart so wide it seemed to carry the burdens of everyone around him. While other children teased Naomi for being the girl without a father, David became her silent defender. He would chase away the cruel boys who mocked her and walk her home from school, carrying her small bag as though it were made of gold. One evening, after a particularly rough day when Naomi had broken into tears in class, David found her sitting under a mango tree near her house. She hugged her knees tightly, trying not to cry too loudly. David approached cautiously, clutching a tiny slingshot in his hand. "Naomi, why are you crying again?" he asked softly, his brows furrowed with worry. She looked up at him with wet eyes. "They said I don't have a father. They laughed at me. They said I'm cursed." David's lips trembled, his fists clenching. "Don't listen to them," he said with quiet firmness. "You're not cursed. Your father is in heaven watching you, and you still have your mother. You're not alone." Her small chest rose and fell as she sniffled. "But it hurts. It hurts too much." David bent down and wiped her cheeks with the rough edge of his sleeve. "Then I'll be your brother. No, I'll be your friend. I'll never let anyone hurt you." It was a childish promise, spoken with the innocence of youth, but for Naomi it became a rope she clung to. From that day, David was always around. If Naomi's mother struggled with firewood, David carried it. If Naomi was too tired to fetch water, David ran to the well for her. He had little to offer but his hands, his time, and his loyalty. Yet those small things built a fortress of comfort around her lonely world. Years passed, and their bond only deepened. Naomi blossomed into a beautiful young woman, her almond-shaped eyes sparkling like dark jewels, her skin smooth as polished bronze. She carried herself with a quiet grace that made people turn when she walked by. Ruth would smile proudly, whispering prayers that her daughter's beauty would bring her joy, not sorrow. David, on the other hand, remained humble, still wrapped in simplicity. He had completed secondary school but had no money to go further. While others dreamt of university degrees and fancy careers, David worked menial jobs to support his aging parents and siblings. He sold firewood, pushed wheelbarrows, even washed cars in the neighborhood. But through it all, his devotion to Naomi never changed. By the time Naomi turned 21, whispers about the two of them had filled the community. "That girl and David, they're always together," neighbors said. "Maybe they'll marry one day." And truthfully, David's heart was already set. He loved Naomi with a purity that words could barely describe. To him, she was more than beauty. She was the girl whose tears he once wiped under a mango tree, the girl he had silently sworn to protect forever. But life, with all its cruel ironies, was preparing a different path. If you're enjoying the story, please like, comment, and click the subscribe button so that you will be the first to get notified when next we drop a heart-melting and emotional story on our YouTube channel. One hot afternoon, Naomi sat under the same mango tree where their friendship had begun. The air smelled of dust and roasted groundnuts. David came over, sweat dripping from his brow, carrying a bag of oranges he had bought with the little money he earned. He placed them in front of her with a shy smile. "For you," he said simply. Naomi smiled faintly, but there was a heaviness in her eyes. She accepted the oranges, turning them in her hands as though they carried answers to questions she didn't know how to ask. "David," she began slowly, "do you ever wish you had more in life? That you were more than this?" David chuckled lightly. Of course, who doesn't dream? But what matters is not how much I have. What matters is who I share it with. His words hung in the air like a melody. But Naomi's heart didn't receive them the way it once would have. Somewhere deep inside, a seed of doubt had been planted. And it wasn't planted by her, but by the whispers of another voice, Mirabelle. Mirabelle was her closest friend from the university. Bold, flashy, and sharp-tongued, she had no patience for poverty. To her, beauty was currency, and Naomi had plenty of it. Naomi, Mirabelle would often say, curling her manicured nails around a glass of wine, "You're too beautiful for that, David. He's broke. He's not even educated. Do you want to waste your life selling oranges and carrying firewood with him? My dear, open your eyes. Men with money are waiting for you. Men who will take you abroad, buy you cars, and treat you like a queen. Don't waste your beauty on a poor secondary school graduate." At first, Naomi would defend him. "But David is kind. He loves me. He's been there for me since I was a child." Mirabelle would laugh cruelly. "My dear, love doesn't pay hospital bills. Love doesn't buy food. Love doesn't buy you a house. You think love will put your children in school? Wake up." Those words replayed in Naomi's mind like a drumbeat that never stopped. And on that hot afternoon under the mango tree, as David smiled at her with oranges in his hand, Naomi's heart wavered. She saw the sincerity in his eyes. She saw the boy who once wiped her tears. But alongside that image, she saw Mirabelle's smirk, heard her words echo. "Love doesn't pay the bills." Naomi sighed deeply, staring at the ground. "David, do you ever wonder if love is enough?" David's brow furrowed. "Naomi, where is this coming from?" She forced a smile, but her heart was heavy with confusion. She didn't answer him. Not yet. But David didn't know. Their love story, the one that had begun so tenderly under the mango tree, was about to face its greatest storm. Naomi's mother often said, "When two souls are tied together by God, even the world cannot untangle them." And in those days, Naomi believed her mother's words. She and David had grown inseparable. Every morning before the cock crowed, David was already outside Ruth's compound, waiting with a bucket to fetch water from the well. He never let Naomi carry heavy loads to the market, never allowed her to walk alone when the sun sank behind the palm trees. The villagers called them the young couple, even though no bride price had been paid, no vows exchanged. Children would point and giggle whenever they saw them together. "Naomi and David," they sang, "husband and wife." Naomi would blush and chase them away, but secretly her heart warmed at their playful chants. David was not rich, but his wealth was in the way he loved her. He saved every kobo he earned from odd jobs to surprise her with little things. A ribbon for her hair, roasted corn wrapped in newspaper, or the oranges she loved so much. He had a way of looking at her, as though she were the only person in the world, as though even the dust beneath her feet deserved to be kissed. One evening, as they walked home from the market together, David stopped suddenly on the narrow, dusty road. The evening breeze rustled the leaves, and the orange glow of the setting sun bathed Naomi's face in gold. "Naomi," he said quietly, his voice trembling, "I know I don't have much to offer. I don't have riches. I don't even have a degree. But I have my heart, and it beats only for you. Will you let me love you for the rest of my life?" Naomi froze. Her heart pounded in her chest. She had known this day would come, but still, hearing the words shook her. She looked into his eyes, so raw, so honest, so full of love it almost broke her. Tears pricked her eyes as she whispered, "David, you already do." David's lips curved into the widest smile she had ever seen. He reached out, taking her hands gently in his rough, calloused ones. "Then I'll never stop. I swear it before God." They stood there, two young hearts binding themselves with promises stronger than iron chains. For Naomi, that moment was pure. She believed in him, in his love, in the future they would build together. For David, it was a vow carved deep into his soul. But love is not lived in isolation. It breathes in the whispers of others, in the eyes of those who watch, in the voices that sneak into hearts when no one is looking. And in Naomi's life, that voice belonged to Mirabelle. Mirabelle came from a different world, Her father was a wealthy businessman, and her mother owned boutiques in Lagos. She wore perfumes that lingered long after she had passed, clothes that shimmered like water under the sun, and shoes Naomi could never dream of affording. To Mirabelle, life was about appearances, and love was a transaction. One afternoon, as Naomi and Mirabelle sat under the shade of a flamboyant tree on campus, Mirabelle scrolled through her phone, laughing at pictures of men who courted her. "Naomi, let me ask you," Mirabelle said, side-eyeing her friend, "are you still wasting your time with that David?" Naomi stiffened. "Mirabelle, don't call it wasting time. David loves me. He has been there for me since I was a child." Mirabelle scoffed. "Love? My dear, open your eyes. Love doesn't put food on the table. Love doesn't build a house. That boy is broke. A secondary school graduate? Is that who you want to spend your life with?" Naomi looked down at her hands. "But he's kind. He makes me happy." "Happiness?" Mirabelle laughed, tossing her hair. "Naomi, happiness fades when hunger knocks on your door. Happiness disappears when your children can't go to school. My dear, men like David will keep you in poverty forever. You're beautiful, Naomi. You can have any man you want. A banker, a politician, even a rich businessman. Why settle for a poor dreamer?" Naomi tried to protest, but Mirabelle's words dug into her like thorns. That night, as she lay in bed, David's face came to her mind. The smile, the sincerity, the way he carried her burdens without complaint. But alongside it came Mirabelle's mocking voice. "A secondary school graduate? Is that who you want to spend your life with?" Days turned into weeks, and Naomi's love for David began to feel like a tug of war inside her chest. When she was with him, her heart soared. But when she was with Mirabelle, doubts crept in like shadows. One evening, David surprised her with a small necklace he had saved for months to buy. It wasn't gold, just a simple silver chain with a tiny pendant. He placed it in her palm nervously, his hands shaking. "I know it's not much," he said softly, "but when I saw it, I thought of you. I want you to wear it and remember me always." Naomi's eyes filled with tears. She clasped the necklace around her neck, smiling. "David, it's beautiful." At that moment, she meant it. But later, when she told Mirabelle, her friend laughed cruelly. "A silver necklace? That's what excites you? My dear, you deserve diamonds, not trinkets from a roadside vendor. Open your eyes before it's too late." Naomi forced a laugh, but her heart ached. She wanted to silence Mirabelle's voice, but it lingered, louder each day. One night, as David walked her home, Naomi found herself staring at him in silence. He was talking about his dreams, about maybe one day saving enough money to go back to school, to study medicine, to make something of himself. His eyes shone with hope, but his clothes were torn at the edges, his sandals worn thin. And suddenly Naomi felt a pang of fear. Fear of the future, fear of being trapped in poverty, fear that Mirabelle might be right. She tried to shake the thought, but it stayed with her like an unwanted shadow. David noticed her silence. "Naomi, are you okay?" he asked gently. She forced a smile. "I'm fine." But deep inside, something was shifting. Love was still there, but doubt was growing, and soon that doubt would bloom into the cruelest decision of her life. The day had been long and hot. The streets of Lagos buzzed with danfos honking, hawkers shouting, and the endless noise of life refusing to rest. Naomi sat in her mother's parlor, staring blankly at the necklace David had given her months earlier. The small silver pendant rested in her palm, glinting faintly under the weak bulb. It should have been a treasure. It was a symbol of love so pure it had been bought with sweat, sacrifice, and countless sleepless nights. But now when she looked at it, Mirabelle's voice drowned its beauty. "A silver necklace? That's all he can give you? My dear, you're worth more than scraps." Naomi closed her fist around it, tears welling in her eyes. Why did Mirabelle's words echo louder than David's love? Why did doubt creep in every time she thought of their future? She loved him. She knew she did, but she also feared the life Mirabelle painted for her, one of hunger, suffering, and regret. That evening, Mirabelle arrived unannounced, dressed in a dazzling gown that shimmered like water under moonlight. She strutted into the small parlor as though she owned it, her perfume filling the room. "Naomi, are you ready?" she asked, dropping her handbag on the couch. Ready for what? Naomi frowned. For life, Mirabel laughed. Come on, let's go out tonight. Some rich men are throwing a party at Lecky. That's where you belong, not here waiting for a poor boy to buy you oranges. Naomi hesitated. Mirabel, David loves me. I can't just leave him like that. Mirabel rolled her eyes. Love. That's what keeps you tied to that boy? Naomi, listen to me. Men like David are a burden. They love you today, but tomorrow their poverty will choke you. You'll be the one suffering while he makes empty promises. You want to end up like your mother, struggling in the market, breaking her back for little profit? Naomi flinched. Mirabel's words cut deeper than she wanted to admit. She thought of her mother, bent over her goods, sweating under the sun. Was that to be her own fate too? But he's different, Naomi whispered weakly. No, my dear, Mirabel said, her tone sharp. He's exactly the same. Poverty is poverty. It doesn't change. Think about your beauty, your future. Men with money are looking for girls like you. Don't waste your youth on a nobody. Naomi lowered her head. Tears gathered in her eyes, but she blinked them away. That night, as she lay in bed, David's face filled her mind. She remembered his laughter, his calloused hands holding hers, his promises spoken with trembling lips. But behind that memory was Mirabel's laughter, cruel and confident. You're too beautiful for him. He'll drag you down. The next day, David came to see her. He was wearing his usual clean but worn shirt, his sandals patched at the edges. In his hand was a small brown envelope. I got some money today, he said with a shy smile. I thought we could buy something nice for your mother. Maybe some food items. She works too hard, Naomi stared at him, her throat tightening. How could a man who had so little still think of giving? How could his heart be so wide when his pockets were empty? But instead of warmth, Naomi felt fear. Mirabel's words grew louder. Love doesn't pay the bills. You'll regret this. David! Her voice shook. We need to talk. David froze. The words, we need to talk, always carried danger. He set the envelope down slowly and sat across from her, his eyes filled with worry. What's wrong, Naomi? Her hands trembled as she twisted the necklace around her fingers. She wanted to stay silent. She wanted to push away the storm that had been brewing inside her. But the words clawed their way out. David, I don't think we can continue like this. Silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. David blinked, confused. What? What do you mean? Naomi's chest rose and fell rapidly. Tears blurred her vision, but she forced herself to look at him. You're a good man, David. You've done so much for me, but love is not enough. You have no money, no degree, no future. I can't build my life on dreams. The words sliced through the air like a blade. David's face crumbled. He stared at her as though she had slapped him. His lips trembled, but no words came. His eyes, those gentle eyes that had always looked at her with warmth, now filled with hurt so raw it pierced her heart. Finally his voice broke, hoarse and trembling. Naomi, is this really you? The girl I've loved all my life? The girl I've carried in my heart since we were children? Tears spilled down Naomi's cheeks. I'm sorry, David. I can't do this anymore. David leaned forward, his hands shaking. Naomi, please, don't do this. I may not have much now, but I'll work hard. I'll give you the life you deserve. Just don't leave me. Her heart screamed at her to say yes, to throw herself into his arms, to silence the lies Mirabel had fed her. But fear chained her tongue. I'm sorry, she whispered. I can't. David's chest heaved. He stood up, his fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. Tears streamed down his face, but he refused to wipe them. Naomi, he said, his voice breaking, you were my everything. My reason to fight, my reason to live. If you walk away now, you'll break me. Naomi sobbed, but she didn't take back her words. She watched as David stumbled out of the house, his shoulders hunched, his steps heavy like a man carrying the weight of the world. When the door closed behind him, Naomi collapsed into tears. Her chest burned, her stomach twisted, and her heart screamed with regret. But Mirabel's voice echoed louder than her own sorrow. You did the right thing. He's nothing. You deserve more. And so, Naomi let him go. That night, David sat under the mango tree where their story had begun. The same tree where he once wiped her tears, where he once promised to love her forever. He buried his face in his hands and wept like a child. The world was cruel, but nothing had ever cut him as deeply as Naomi's rejection. For the first time, David felt what it meant to love endlessly and lose everything. David did not sleep that night. He lay on the thin mattress in his parents' small house, staring at the cracked ceiling while the echoes of Naomi's words tore him apart. You're a good man, David, but love is not enough. You have no money, no degree, no future. I can't build my life on dreams. The words replayed over and over, louder than the whir of mosquitoes in the room, louder than the creaking fan that refused to turn. He covered his ears, but nothing could silence them. His chest felt hollow, as if someone had reached in and ripped out his heart with bare hands. This was the girl he had loved since childhood, the girl whose tears he had wiped under the mango tree, the girl he had sworn to protect, the girl for whom he had sacrificed everything, his time, his energy, his dreams. And she had thrown him away, not because he didn't love her, not because he had hurt her, but because he was poor. By morning, David looked like a shadow of himself. His eyes were red and swollen, his lips dry, his body trembling from exhaustion. His mother noticed as he staggered out of the house. "David, my son, are you all right?" she asked, her voice full of concern. He forced a smile. "I'm fine, Mama." But he wasn't. He was broken. Greg found him later that afternoon, sitting under the mango tree with his face buried in his hands. "David!" Greg's voice was loud, his heavy footsteps crunching the dry leaves as he approached. David lifted his head slowly, his eyes empty. "Ah, my brother," Greg sighed, dropping down beside him. "They told me what happened." "Naomi, she left you?" David nodded weakly. His throat burned, but words refused to come. Greg clenched his fists. "That girl doesn't know what she's lost. You gave her your whole heart, and she threw it away like trash? Because of money? Because of education?" He shook his head angrily. "Some people don't know the value of gold when they see it." David's lips trembled. Finally, his voice cracked, raw with pain. "Greg, she was my everything, my reason to fight. Now what's the point? What do I have left?" Greg placed a firm hand on his shoulder. "You still have your life, David. You still have me. And you still have a future. You think your story ends because one girl couldn't see your worth? No, my brother. This is not the end. This is the beginning." But David shook his head, tears spilling down his cheeks. "I loved her, Greg, with everything in me. And she didn't care. She didn't even look back when she broke me. What do I have left?" Greg swallowed hard, fighting his own tears. He had never seen David so broken. His strong, loyal friend looked like a man standing at the edge of a cliff. "You have yourself, David," Greg said firmly. "Don't let her decision destroy you. If she cannot see your worth, let the world see it. Prove her wrong. Prove them all wrong. Become the man she thought you couldn't be." David stared at him, silent, trembling. Greg leaned closer, his voice steady. "You are not finished. You hear me? You are not finished." Meanwhile, Naomi sat in her room, her face buried in her pillow. She had cried until her throat was sore. Her mother, Ruth, knocked gently and entered. She sat beside her daughter and stroked her hair. "Naomi, what is it?" "Why have you been crying?" Naomi sat up slowly, her eyes red and swollen. "Mama, I let David go." Ruth frowned. "Let him go?" "Why?" Naomi's lips trembled. Because he's poor. He has no degree, no money. What future can I have with him?" Ruth's face fell. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then with a deep sigh, she whispered, "Naomi, a poor man who loves you is better than a rich man who does not. Do not despise humble beginnings. The future belongs to God, not man." Naomi broke into tears again. "But Mama, Mirabel said—" "Forget what Mirabel said." Ruth's voice cracked with rare anger. "Is Mirabel the one who will live your life? Is she the one who will carry your pain? My daughter, listen to me. Beauty fades, money fades, but character remains. David is a good man, a kind man. Men like him are rare, Naomi's chest heaved. Her mother's words sliced through her like a blade of truth. But it was too late. The deed was already done. Somewhere across the village, David was weeping under the mango tree, and the sound of his broken heart echoed through the night. Days passed. David stopped visiting Naomi's house. He no longer fetched water for her mother. He no longer brought oranges or roasted corn. For the first time since childhood, Naomi felt the emptiness of his absence. It was as though a light had gone out in her world, and yet pride kept her from going to him. Mirabelle, on the other hand, was triumphant. "Finally," she said one afternoon, linking arms with Naomi, "now you can focus on finding real men, not boys who dream with empty pockets." Naomi forced a smile, but her heart ached. She tried to silence it, but every night when she closed her eyes, she saw David's face, the way his eyes had looked when she broke him, the way his tears had fallen without shame. And though she told herself she had done the right thing, deep inside she knew she had shattered something precious. Under the mango tree, Greg made a silent vow. "David," he said, gripping his friend's shoulder, "you will rise again. You will not die here. You will not let her rejection bury you. One day she will regret the tears she made you shed. One day she will see you stand tall, and on that day you will not need her love to be whole again." David didn't answer, but in the hollow silence of his chest a small flame flickered, the beginning of a fire that would one day burn bright enough to change his destiny. For weeks, David lived like a shadow. He barely ate. He barely spoke. Even his parents noticed the change. Their once lively son now sat in silence, staring into space, carrying the weight of a broken heart on his shoulders. His younger sister, Ada, often tried to cheer him up. She would sit beside him and tell him childish jokes, but he would only force a faint smile before sinking back into his thoughts. His mother prayed silently every night, whispering, "Lord, heal my son's heart. Don't let him lose himself." But the one who refused to let David drown completely was Greg. Every day, Greg came knocking at his door. He dragged him out to play football with the boys. He made him help repair his motorcycle. He told him stories that made no sense just to make him laugh. But most importantly, he kept speaking life into him. "David," Greg said one evening as they sat under the mango tree, "you can't keep living like this. Naomi is gone. You begged her, you cried for her, but she still left. Fine, let her go, but don't let her decision destroy your destiny." David sighed, his eyes heavy. "Greg, I loved her more than life itself. How do I just erase her from my heart?" "You don't erase her," Greg said softly. "You rise above her. You become more than what she thought you could be. You show her and the world that rejection is not the end of a man's story." David turned to him slowly. "But how?" "What do I have? I'm just a poor boy with a secondary school certificate." Nothing more. Greg's eyes burned with determination. "Then start there. Go back to school. Push yourself. Break the limits. You've always been brilliant, David. I've seen it. Don't waste it because of one girl's blindness." The words sank into David's soul like seeds waiting for rain. For the first time since Naomi's rejection, something stirred inside him, a faint but undeniable spark of hope. That night, David lay awake, staring at the ceiling. He remembered Naomi's words. "You have no degree, no future." His chest tightened, but this time, instead of despair, a strange fire rose in him. What if he could prove her wrong? What if he could turn his pain into fuel? For years he had carried Naomi in his heart. Now maybe it was time to carry himself. He whispered into the darkness, "I will rise." The following weeks marked the beginning of David's transformation. He enrolled for tutorials to prepare for JAMB, the university entrance exam in Nigeria. With the little money he had saved from menial jobs, he bought used textbooks, often staying up late into the night reading by lantern light. His parents noticed the change and supported him with what little they could. Greg stood by him, encouraging him whenever he felt overwhelmed. "David," Greg said one night, "don't stop. Every hour you study is one step away from the pain she caused you. One step closer to the man you're meant to be." David nodded. determination shining in his eyes. Months later, David sat in the examination hall with hundreds of other candidates. Sweat trickled down his brow as he stared at the papers in front of him. Fear whispered that he wasn't good enough, that poverty had already marked his destiny. But then he remembered Naomi's rejection. Her cold voice, her tear-stained face, the way she walked away without looking back. His heart hardened. "I will not die here," he whispered under his breath. "I will rise." He picked up his pen and wrote as though his life depended on it. Because, in truth, it did. Weeks later, when the results came out, David's name was among the highest scores in Lagos. He had passed with flying colors. His parents wept tears of joy. His mother fell to her knees, praising God. Greg lifted him up in a bear hug, shouting, "I told you! I told you you could do it!" David himself stood in silence, the paper trembling in his hands. For the first time in months, he smiled. Not because of Naomi, not because of anyone else, but because of himself. And when the admission list for the University of Lagos was released, David's name appeared among those offered admission to study medicine. It was the first stone laid on the path of destiny, but destiny does not always walk alone. It often comes with signs, with miracles that tell you the universe is watching. One evening, as David walked back from registration at the university, he overheard two lecturers discussing a scholarship program for brilliant but financially challenged students. He listened carefully, his heart racing. Could this be for him? The following week, with trembling hands, he applied for the scholarship. Days turned into weeks of anxious waiting until finally the letter arrived. "Congratulations, David Okafor. You have been awarded a full scholarship to study medicine at the University of Lagos." David dropped to his knees, tears streaming down his face. He remembered the nights of hunger, the tears he had shed, the rejection that had broken him. And now God had opened a door no man could shut. Greg was the first to hear the news. He grabbed David and spun him around, shouting, "You see? You see what I've been telling you? This is only the beginning." David laughed through his tears. "Greg, I will make it. I don't know how long it will take, but I will make it." And deep inside, he whispered a vow Naomi would never hear. "One day, you will see me again. But it won't be like the poor boy you left behind." Naomi, on the other hand, was living a different reality. She had started dating a wealthy businessman, a man who showered her with gifts and took her to parties. On the surface, her life glittered, but beneath the surface, her heart was restless. Every time she laughed at his jokes, she remembered David's smile. Every time he bought her expensive jewelry, she touched the silver necklace still hidden in her drawer, the one she could never bring herself to throw away. And when she was alone at night, Mirabelle's words would echo in her ears, but so would her mother's. "A poor man who loves you is better than a rich man who does not." But pride kept her from going back. For now, she told herself she had made the right choice. But deep inside, a seed of regret was already taking root. The University of Lagos campus buzzed with life. The chatter of students under trees, the clatter of feet in crowded lecture halls, the energy of youthful dreams filling the air. For David, it was more than just a campus. It was redemption. He had arrived as a boy still bleeding from heartbreak, but he carried within him a hunger that no one could see. He was determined not just to study, but to excel. Every morning before dawn, David woke up to read. His scholarship covered tuition and accommodation, but money for food was always scarce. Some days he ate only once, surviving on Gary and ground nuts. Yet he never complained. Whenever he grew weak, he remembered Naomi's words. "You're just a secondary school graduate. You can't give me the life I want." Each word became fuel. Each insult, a fire that pushed him forward. By his second year, David's professors had begun to notice him. "Mr. Okafor," one lecturer said after a particularly difficult anatomy test, "you are one of the finest minds I've seen in years. Keep this up, and you'll go far." David bowed humbly, but inside his heart leapt. It was working. His pain was no longer a weight dragging him down. It was the wind lifting him higher. Greg remained his constant source of encouragement. Though Greg studied engineering, he never failed to check on David. One evening, Greg said, "Dave, the way you're going, one day they'll call you Dr. Okafor." And when that day comes, the whole world will know your name." David chuckled, shaking his head. "Doctor? That's still far away," my friend Greg's eyes gleamed. "Not as far as you think." Meanwhile, Naomi's life was not as golden as it looked from the outside. Her relationship with the wealthy businessman had turned sour. He was controlling, arrogant, and constantly reminded her that he made her who she was. The gifts that once dazzled her now felt like chains. She smiled at parties, dressed in expensive clothes, but when she returned home at night, she cried into her pillow. Her mother noticed the sadness in her eyes. "Naomi," she said gently one evening, "are you truly happy?" Naomi forced a laugh. "Of course, Mama. Look at me. I have everything I want." But her mother only sighed. "Everything except peace." The words pierced Naomi's heart, but she buried them. She couldn't go back now, not after what she had done to David. By his final year, David had become a star among his peers. His grades were flawless, his discipline unmatched. When a medical research contest was announced, he poured himself into it with everything he had. Weeks of sleepless nights paid off. David's team won first place. His groundbreaking work on cardiovascular health caught the attention of international scholars. One morning, he received a letter that changed everything. "Dear Mr. David Okafor, we are pleased to inform you that you have been awarded a full scholarship to pursue a master's degree in cardiothoracic surgery at the University of Cambridge, England." David read the letter over and over, his hands trembling. Then he fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "God, you remembered me. You lifted me from shame." When Greg heard the news, he lifted David onto his shoulders and ran around the hostel shouting, "Cambridge! Cambridge! Our own David is going to Cambridge." The entire hostel celebrated with him. And that night, as David lay in bed, he whispered again to himself, "One day she will see. Not because I want her back, but because I want the world to know that rejection does not end a man's destiny." At Cambridge, David's life transformed completely. The cold winds of England greeted him, but so did opportunity. The facilities, the libraries, the professors, everything was beyond what he had imagined. He threw himself into his studies with relentless passion. His colleagues admired his dedication, his humility, and his brilliance. Soon, his name was on the lips of professors across the department. By the time he graduated, he was no longer just David from a poor family in Lagos. He was Dr. David Okafor, a rising star in cardiothoracic surgery. And when he was offered a position at one of the top hospitals in London, he accepted, determined to specialize in the very thing that fascinated him most, the human heart. Back in Nigeria, Naomi's regrets grew heavier with time. Her relationship with the businessman ended bitterly. He left her for another woman, publicly humiliating her. Whispers followed her wherever she went. She thought she had it all. See her now, Mirabelle, her friend, who had once pushed her away from David, was nowhere to be found. Their friendship had faded once Naomi stopped being useful to her. Naomi sat in her room one night, staring at the necklace David had once given her. She had kept it hidden all these years. As she touched it, tears rolled down her cheeks. "David, you loved me in a way no one ever did, and I threw it away." Her mother's health was declining too. At first, it was little chest pains. Then it grew worse. Soon the doctors confirmed it, a severe heart condition. They shook their heads gravely. "This is beyond us. She needs a specialist, maybe even surgery abroad." Naomi wept, clinging to her mother's frail hands. "No, Mama, please don't leave me too. I've already lost Papa. I can't lose you." Her mother's weak voice whispered, "Naomi, if only you had chosen differently," before sleep overcame her again. Naomi collapsed to the floor, crying bitterly. And then, like a whisper from fate, she heard the name that made her heart stop. "There's a surgeon in London," one doctor said. "One of the best in the world. His name is Dr. David Okafor." Naomi froze. The room spun. David, my David, the boy I threw away because he was poor? Her hands shook, her tears doubled, and for the first time in years, pride broke inside her. She whispered through sobs, "God, is this the same David? The same man I abandoned?" It was. Destiny had come full circle. And soon Naomi would have to face the man she had rejected. Not as a poor, broken lover, but as the only person who could save her mother's life. The hospital ward was quiet except for the beeping of the heart monitor and the weak groans of Naomi's mother. Naomi sat at her bedside, her eyes swollen from crying, her fingers tightly gripping her mother's frail hand. The doctors had done what they could, but it wasn't enough. Her mother's heart was failing rapidly, and time was running out. Naomi's aunt walked into the room, her face heavy with sorrow. She placed a hand on Naomi's shoulder and whispered, "My dear, the doctors say only a specialist abroad can handle this case. Someone who has dealt with complicated heart surgeries." Naomi's lips trembled. "But Auntie, where will I find someone like that? And where will we get the money?" Her aunt sighed deeply. They mentioned one name, a Nigerian who has made a big name abroad. They say he is one of the best cardiothoracic surgeons in the world. His name is Dr. David Okafor. The words struck Naomi like a thunderbolt. She pulled her hand away and stood up, her chest heaving. "Where are they? What did you just say?" "Dr. David Okafor. He works in London. They say his hands are blessed. He has saved many lives," her aunt repeated. Naomi staggered back and collapsed into a chair. Her mind spun violently. David. My David. The same man I abandoned. The one I mocked. The one I broke into pieces. Her aunt misread her silence as shock. "It will be hard to get him, my dear. But if God wills it," Naomi interrupted with a choked whisper. "Auntie, I know him." Her aunt turned sharply. "You know him?" Tears flooded Naomi's eyes. She clutched her chest as if the pain inside her heart was tearing her apart. "Yes, I knew him long ago. I hurt him. I hurt him so badly that night." Naomi could not sleep. She tossed on her bed, clutching the necklace David had once given her. Memories poured in like a flood. David holding her hands, David promising her forever. David's eyes filled with tears as she walked away from him. She pressed the necklace to her chest and sobbed. "God, how do I face him now? How do I look into his eyes and ask for help after what I did?" Her pride shattered completely. She realized she had nothing left. No wealthy man to save her. No friend to whisper empty advice. All she had was the man she once despised. The next morning, Naomi made a decision. She would find David. Through connections at the hospital, she obtained his contact details. Her hands trembled as she typed out an email, but words failed her. How could she just write, "Hello, I'm the woman who broke you, but please save my mother"? After deleting draft after draft, she finally decided she had to go in person. She sold her last jewelry, borrowed money from relatives, and boarded a plane to London. Each hour in the air felt like a punishment, her guilt gnawing at her heart. When she finally arrived at the hospital where David worked, Naomi froze at the entrance. The building was grand, modern, filled with doctors and nurses in white coats. Her legs shook as she approached the reception. "Pippi, please," she stammered. I need to see Dr. David Okafor." The receptionist glanced at her politely. "Do you have an appointment?" Naomi swallowed hard. No, but please, it's urgent. Tell him it's Naomi." The receptionist hesitated, then picked up the phone. Minutes later, a door opened, and there he was. David, tall, confident, dressed in a surgeon's coat. Please subscribe so you will get notified when we drop the part 2 of the story on our YouTube channel.